But when I think of WrestleMania 15 in that era, man, there was a lot of moving parts with the Russo era, the Attitude era. We're knee deep in it. But with you specifically, they try to turn you heel. Now, I know they tried that once before, I guess 3 years prior, 1996, and you're going off about the fake Diesel and the fake Razor Ramon, and you did a great job in that promo. We've covered that in the archives over at grillingjr.com. But when this came up again in 1999, the idea that they wanted to make you an on-screen character, not quote unquote just a commentator, but now you're going to be a bad guy, a heel persona. This time, maybe being paired with your old pal Dr. Death, where I know you didn't enjoy it in 96, but the pairing with Dr. Death, did that make it feel different, or were you still maybe not so bullish on the idea?
Maybe a little bit more pressure to make it work. I thought maybe I never felt comfortable being a heel. I would have done it if it had been done correctly, and I had been more patient. But I didn't like being a heel. I didn't like changing my role. I liked doing what I was doing, which I thought I was doing pretty decent. It had been for quite some time. So here we are 50 years later from starting this crazy profession, and I'm still not a heel. It just wasn't meant to be, in my opinion. And that might just be my ego talking.
Here's what you wrote in your book. In addition to my existing administrative duties, I started to help produce the announcing on Raw each Monday. I could feel the energy from the crowd through the curtain, but I didn't want to go out there. I was afraid of being mocked. That curtain became my safety net. I could stay on one side of it and kind of make myself forget that I looked the way I did. If I walked the other side, the other world or the whole wide world would see. Even the thought of going out there before people made my stomach turn. Michael Cole was my replacement. And even though he was newish and green, I could tell that he was going to be a hell of a talent in that position. In my mind, I was finished with the announcer section of my career. So, of course, you're still happily employed and gainfully employed by WWE in this era. But after suffering that bout of Bell's palsy, and maybe there's a question as to whether or not, you're going to return to commentary, were you comfortable with that idea of running talent relations and working behind the scenes? Or, you wrote here, you thought it was over. Can you take us through that?
Well, I just thought that Vince had made his mind up. He tried more than once to replace me. And so what options do I have, Conrad? You're a very smart, astute businessman. If your boss says, here's what I want you to do, then how do you not do that?
Right.
It's common sense. So I was just going to write it out and see where it took us, because this particular journey had plenty of twists and turns in it. And I was willing to, let's just write it out and see where it takes us. And, we're doing a lot of TV. I thought my work was going to hold up with anybody else on the roster, or at least that was my take on it. And but it was a little unsettling, to say the least. It's hard to walk away without ample explanation. And I just felt like that, for whatever reason, Vince wanted to upgrade. I sounded Southern. I looked bad with the Bell's palsy. And it kind of was kicking my ass psychologically. So the only thing I knew to do, because I couldn't change his mind, was to wait and see what happens. And that's what we did, and it seemed like it worked out okay by and large.
You wrote in your book about Michael Cole that he was newish and green, or new and greenish, whatever the phrase was. But the reality is, behind the scenes, there was a lot of wrestling fans who believed for years that there was some animosity between you two guys. And I don't know if that was ever real, but a lot of times when you see like a starting quarterback and then his backup quarterback, fans at home just want to buy into the fact that there's some sort of contention between them. Chat me up about your relationship with Michael Cole then and now.
Always very respectful. I always liked Michael. Michael's wife had some health issues, and so I was set in for him from time to time. I think that showed Vince I hadn't lost my timing and my passion. But Michael and I don't know that we ever had any significant bad words with each other. Nice guy. Dad's a cop, highway patrolman in Jersey. He's a good guy. I liked Michael a lot. Still do. I don't talk to him. Occasionally on the holidays, perhaps, or a birthday or something, some special occasion, I will drop him a text. He always responds. He's always polite. So he's a good guy. And he's had a wonderful career there. You know, he's pretty well replaced good old JR as the voice of WWE. And I took a lot of pride in that title, unofficial title. I took a lot of pride in that deal. So, but Michael is he's a class guy, a little nerdy sometimes, but good guy. I'm glad I got to work with him, and I'm glad he's doing well. I'm proud of him.
Absolutely. He's done a great job. And I don't think a lot of people maybe would have predicted this longevity or this success because he was stepping into really big shoes. And whenever we talk about that quarterback example, I always think about when they had to phase out Joe Montana, when the 49ers decided we're going with Steve Young, Montana's no longer our guy. Man, a lot of football fans, even 49er fans, they weren't sold on that. I mean, Joe was the proven guy. But it's not like it was Joe's fault. This is what management wanted. They're going to run the play, right?
And Joe landed on his feet, went to Kansas City, and played some good football. So you just never
That sounds
know.
familiar, doesn't it? Doesn't that sound familiar?
Pretty much. Just don't give up.
Yes.
I never gave up on my journey to get back to my seat in the middle of that announce table. I was always confident that things were going to work out, and maybe that's one of my lasting assets is that I just refused to give up and tap. There was no tapping for JR on that scenario. I just had to wait and see if my opportunity was going to arise again. And luckily for me, in going forward, it did happen. And, you know, so that's kind of how I looked at that, Conrad. I just wanted to be productive and I wanted to be back in the game. I wanted to play. I didn't want to walk around with a clipboard in my hands, using that quarterback analogy. I wanted to play, get me on the field. So that's kind of where I was on that thing. I just never gave up.
Well, the WWE did not give up either. They're coming off two really hot pay-per-views, the Royal Rumble and St. Valentine's Day Massacre. I can't believe this is a real thing, but the main event of St. Valentine's Day Massacre is Vince versus Stone Cold. And that's where we would, of course, see the debut of Paul White, who would eventually become known as the Big Show.
Right.
But the idea that we're seeing Vince versus Austin on a pay-per-view, I don't think I would have predicted that just a year prior.
I was happy with that booking. I thought it was, you know, you got your top heel, the guy that's carrying the most heat, the individual that people want to see get his ass kicked more than anybody else on the roster, and you're pairing him up with your it guy. Steve was getting hotter and hotter, and he had this personal issue with Vince. So the booking made sense. Now, was it going to be an artistic success? Was it going to be WrestleMania 13 with Brett and Steve? No, never had a chance to do that. I don't think they believed that. I think they just wanted to go out and have a dog and pony show and kicks and punches and a little juice and so forth. But it worked for me. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed calling it because the match had so much drama attached to it and natural, organic drama.